The most recent run of Spider-Man and ongoing has gotten a lot of backlash due to its aggressive change to the status quo, and not exactly for the better, or at least in most people's opinion. The change of Ben Reily into a villain, going by the name of Chasm, which, also fun fact, isn't the first time Ben has been a villain. He at one point was the Jackal, who, yes, also was the name of another villain. Actually, the guy who created Ben was also called the Jackal. Therefore, that part wasn't really my biggest problem, because Ben being a villain isn't something I'm against. I'm against the way it was done, because I think there should have been more build-up, but it wasn't something that I thought was weird or out of nowhere. Instead, my biggest issue is the awkward breakup between Spider-Man and Mary Jane Watson, with Peter now being a Black Cat again, where Peter compares Mary as being a sister figure to him, which I can't describe how much that made me upset. Not only because I think that Peter and Mary are a great couple, so they should stay together, but also now if they ever get back together in the upcoming years or whenever, that one line where Peter calls her his sister will always have had happen. Unless it gets retconned the hell out of their history, which I really hope it is. Because even Black Cat, in the literal comic, calls him out for that being weird. However, there is something from the recent Spider-Man comics that have been getting more of a positive response, and that is Hallow's Eve, a Halloween-based villain, who is a rebranding of an already existing character, Elizabeth Tyne, the ex-girlfriend of Ben, who always loved him. She will get these abilities from Madelyn Pryor, the evil clone of Jean Grey and Mother of Cable. She'll be given these masks that grant her different powers when she wears them, which is certainly a unique ability in my opinion. She would return in the Beyond arc of Spider-Man, but would become Hallow's Eve in the Dark Web arc, which also saw Ben becoming the Goblin King. Yeah, recent Spider-Man comics have been getting a little weird. The two would work together as this weird power dynamic duo, where they in fact are equals, with it ending with Ben helping Hallow's Eve get away and him being trapped in Limbo. She was actually given a pretty positive response, not necessarily a huge response, but definitely not a hated one. In fact, there are people saying that she should take over as the main villain rather than Ben. She's at the moment getting her own solo miniseries, which only 2 issues so far have come out, which have also gotten a pretty positive response. She is trying her hardest to save Ben from Limbo. We get the impression she's not fully a supervillain, but certainly not a hero. She isn't afraid of hurting people, however, murder isn't exactly her thing. We've seen her display different powers from werewolf transformations, a ghost form, and shapeshifting, that into Marilyn Munroe, and etc. As of right now, Spider-Man comics and comic books that are associated with Spider-Man, like Hallow's Eve, have gained some understandable backlash from a lot, from Ben becoming a supervillain, to the sister stuff, to Mary Jane Watson now having superpowers that are kind of copying Jackpot. However, despite all of that, Hallow's Eve seems to be kind of an outlier in a way. When it comes down to it, while there are some negative reactions, with her, typically, it's far more positive than the majority of other things that are going on in this comic. Well, comics. Perhaps it's only comparable-wise. However, personally, I definitely see that the character is getting a lot more of a positive response than maybe some other new characters. My personal opinion on the character is that she does seem like a pretty fun character, and Spider-Man does need more female villains. Especially now because he's dating one of the very few he has, that being Black Cat. Hallow's Eve does have a pretty unique power set that I do think is pretty creative. That is, depending on the writer. However, I'm not entirely sure if the Halloween branding will let her keep coming back concerning the timing of the character's stories. It could eventually, potentially, in the upcoming future, restrict her to maybe only Halloween stories, which I hope doesn't happen, but I could see that being a possibility. Anyways, like always, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!